Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 25, which is a crypto instrument Cardano, or also known as its symbol ADA. If you aren't familiar with the series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. And I also add my Telegram channel where I forward my YouTube and TradingView videos so you can get notified. Or you can simply search for theSignalyst on Telegram. So let's do it. As you already know, we always start from the higher time frames, which we call our rejection time frames, daily and weekly, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside the range? And of course, as price approaches the lower bound, it can be horizontal, just like this one, or non-horizontal. We'll be looking for buy setups, and as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for sell setups. It can also be horizontal or non-horizontal. So we've got three types of rejections. The first one is a typical support and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level or area. The second one is a supply and demand zone. So when we have an aggressive movement upward, we've got a demand zone. And as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for buy setups. The second one is, or the second type of the second rejection is a supply zone. So when we have an aggressive movement downward, that's a supply zone. And as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. The third type is a non-horizontal support and resistance, and also known as trend lines. So let's start by drawing our typical horizontal support and resistance. And as you already know, I said it many times, when it comes to crypto and stocks, you can't really find many typical support and resistance because you don't have enough data, right? But when it comes to Forex, you've got more data, so you probably find many typical support and resistance. That's why when you don't have enough data, you go for round numbers. But of course, the round numbers depends on the instrument. Like for example, if it's trading between 0 and like 1K, the round numbers are 250, 500, 750, right? So these are the strongest ones. But for example, in this particular one, it's trading between 0 and 3. Right? So the strongest round numbers are 1, 2, 3, right? Very simple. And of course, the 1.5, 2.5, and 0.5 are also round numbers, but are not as strong as the 1, 2, and 3 in this particular case, okay? So let's first start by drawing our round numbers. And of course, we always check if it makes sense or not. So if price is not respecting it at all for quite some time, then it's no longer valid and should be deleted. Let's start with the 1 because it's the most obvious one. And here we go. And you can see that price has been respecting it quite good lately, right? So it was acting as a resistance previously. Then price broke it upward. Now it's acting as a support, and price is currently retesting it. And of course, it's an entire zone. So you should treat it like this, right? But let's keep it as a level to keep the chart as clean as possible. The second one is, as mentioned previously, we've got the 2. Right, and here we go. Then we've got the 3. And as you can see, the 3 has been respected very well, right? Price almost reached it like 1.1 and then traded lower from here. Next, let's go for blue for our 0.5 round numbers, okay? So here we go. Let's start with the 0.5. Here we go, and we also have what? We also have a demand zone here around like 0.35 till 0.5. So we've got a demand area, which is for those who already know about supply and demand. If you don't know, don't worry, just surf my YouTube channel and you'll find 2 videos about how to draw and trade supply and demand zones. So we've got a rally base and then a rally again. So it's a strong demand area. And let's second go for 1.5. Here we go. And as you can see, the 1.5 has been respected quite well previously, but act as a resistance, and here as well price rejected it downward. Last but not least, we have our 2.5, and also the price respected it previously, right? So we've got wicks here. So the only one that price hasn't really respected much, unless we've got this one, is the round number 2. Anyway, let's keep it and we'll keep track of it, and we'll see it better from daily time frame. So that's from weekly time frame. And as you can see, just by drawing round numbers, now we get an idea about where we currently stand in the market. We rejected the previous resistance. Here we go. And now approaching a support. That's it. Right? So ADA is currently trading inside what we call this floor. So imagine that this is a building, and now it's trading inside this floor. If broken down, then it will trade inside this floor, and vice versa if broken upward. Okay, next, and as mentioned previously, we've got a demand area here. While I was giving you an example, I drew this one, if you remember. So we've got a demand area, we had an aggressive movement upward from it. Just like previously here, we had a demand area, then price retested it, we were looking for buy setups. So this previous demand is filled, and then since price also made an aggressive movement upward, we also have a demand area here. Okay, but I will not draw it because we already have the one round number, right? And also not draw it as a zone to keep it as clean as possible. So we have a demand and we have the support or round number one, which was acting as a resistance here previously. Next, I don't really find like non-horizontal support and resistance or trend lines here. I can find a minor one here, but I guess we can see it better from daily time frame. So let's not draw it here, and we'll see it better from daily. Okay, so now we've covered our supply and demand zone, supply and resistance, and we don't have trend lines. We are done with weekly. Let's go and zoom into daily time frame. Here we have a clearer picture, and we can clearly see that we were overall, here we go, let me zoom back, here we go. So we were overall bearish and price broke above the previous high. Now we are bullish, and here also we are bearish, lower highs and lower lows, then price broke above the previous high. Now we are bullish, then price broke below the previous low here. Now we are bearish, price started to make big impulse movements, pushing price lower, correction, impulse correction, here we go. Starting from here, price started to make, as you can see, lower highs and lower lows, and ADA hasn't broke above the previous high yet. Of course, it broke above minor highs, right, like this one and this one, but the major ones aren't broken yet, right? So we are still bearish. However, since we are approaching the one round number, we are looking for buy setups. And this is our support area. We can see it even better from daily if you can see it clearly, right? Approaching the support, we are looking for buy setup. Of course, price can still break it down a little bit before going upward because we've got a big zone, not a laser level, but we are looking for buy setups. And the one that I showed you that it's not very clean from weekly time frame, here we go. So now this trend line is the overall trend line, which is engulfing the overall movement downward. So for the buyers to kick in, for ADA to have a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish, you know what to look for. You need to see a break above the last high, which is around the trend line, right? So meanwhile, until this happens, until we see a break above it, we would be overall bearish, and we can still trade lower and lower till the next support area. Just like here, for example, we had this trend line, price couldn't break above it, instead broke to the previous low and below the support. Then this one is now acting as a resistance. So now we're waiting for this to happen, or if price breaks it downward, then just like previously and here as well, right? So many times price is breaking below the lower floor, then and then the lower one, and so on. In this case also, we would expect a movement downward around this area. So let's now make an offset for it. As usual, when you draw in on horizontal support, you always try to make an offset for it. Here we go, to see if it makes sense. And yes, it does, sorry. So you are now overall bearish, trading inside this channel, impulse correction, and we are currently in this impulse movement downward, unless the bulls manage to kick in here, right, providing with this like channel and then break above this area, then the bulls would take over. But we are looking for buy stops anyway from lower time frames because we are around the support area. And as mentioned previously, unless broken downward, then a movement till this support, which would be even a better rate, a stronger support, because it is the intersection of the lower brown trend line acting as an oversold area and the lower support in blue, which is a demand zone as mentioned previously, and round number 0.5. So long story short, from a long-term perspective, we'll be waiting for this area to be broken upward for the buyers to take over. Or of course, if the buyers manage to make a new swing high, then we'll update our trigger swing. That's from a long-term perspective. From a short-term perspective, since we are around the lower band or around a support area, which is in fact a very, very strong one, we'll be looking for buy stops also from a lower time frame. Now let us zoom into lower time frames. If we zoom into H1, here we go. We can see the trend lines here. Fantastic. If you zoom into H1, we can also see that we were overall bearish above the previous high, bullish above the previous low. So we are now obviously bearish, and price couldn't break above the previous high. So we are still bearish, and this isn't a good idea to buy a bearish market, right? So we always wait for the buyers to kick in to enter the market. So we can draw this trend line here, and as usual, let's make it in red for our lower time frame trend lines. And just like we did from daily time frame, right? I don't want to see this one on daily. Here we go. Right, so just like we did here on daily time frame, we have this trend line. We always try to make an offset for it. Here we go. As you can see, it's broken downward, so it's now quite over. So anyway, let's delete it. It's broken already. But for the buyers to take over from a short-term perspective from H1, we need to see a new or a third swing to form around the upper red trend line to consider it also our trigger swing, and then we can buy on spike upward. So this is a setup from a short-term perspective to catch what? To catch this movement upward, and then we'll monitor price action here to see if price would break above this area, then we'll keep holding or even add more longs on Cardano, or if price rejects it or like break below the previous minor swing low, then you can close your sell and then look for new buy setups to form, or if price breaks above this area, right? So that's it for ADA. I keep it as short and clean as possible. We are bearish if we break below the one round number, and a lower another bearish move will be expected to the 0.5. For the buyers to take over, we need to see a break at this scenario, and from a long-term perspective, this is what we are looking for. Best of luck, and I'll see you on the next episode.